sometimes God will tell you to do things that it does not make sense, but because I fear God, I will do it. And it's like instantly everything is like, okay, that's what you should be seeking for in a man. Someone that fears God, not you, not someone that fears you, someone that fears God, and someone that loves you more than anything. When a man loves you, he can do anything.
Beautiful. Can you please speak up to those people who are going to church on a daily basis, but they've actually not sought God for themselves, and they're hoping somehow that they're going to metamorphose into a wonderful and loving relationship?
Single sisters have to understand that there's nobody that's perfect. And what you are seeing a result of a woman that has worked and labored and worked with her husband. You are seeing a man that has come to his best self because he has peace in his home.
There are about 52% of women right now in the world. And tagging the men at 48%. And of these 52%, 48.2% of these women are over the age of 18 and they are unmarried. That means exactly half, the married and the unmarried, are split in half. The question is that with this number of women that are single and are unmarried, how do you actually stay single? How do you actually enjoy your singlehood? Now, the desire for marriage is actually split along the same lines, where there's about 58% of these women who want to be married. And so how do you actually prepare as you move from that transition from being single to being married? There's a lot of talk about it. There's a lot of fear about it, considering the fact that 1 in 4 women are afraid of being married. Why? Because the divorce rate is on the increase. There's 40 to 50% of the marriages in the US are beginning to end in divorce. And we as Christians, we seem not to be immune to it. It's beginning to catch up with us. A lot of people are also wanting to focus on their career, on their education. But is that enough to set you above the bar, to prepare you for a quality home? There's also a lot of women talking about financial independence. They want to, leverage on their finances, and they are naturally afraid. The trend is women are getting older and older before they get married, and some people are just willing to be happily single. Are we as Christians immune to this, and how can we prepare for this process in the transition? If you're among those people who do not care, you just want to stay single, that's fine. But there is a way to be single and be happily single. So joining us in this conversation this morning to have this conversation is my friend and sister. She's the wife of the pastor. She talks about her husband being the most handsome man on earth. And he is Dr. Karunwi. And I am sitting with her, Sis Tise Karunwi. She's a professional nurse, mental health nurse, and she enjoys working with young people, counseling young people. She's blessed with 3 boys. She's the mom of boys, right? I think she has agreed to that at this point.
Yeah.
And we will be having this conversation with her about how to actually be single, how to be happy and single, and not marrying around. I'm going to give her the floor to introduce herself, and we'll get this show on the road.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, this is a hot topic actually. This is a topic worth discussing because, my husband and I, we have our church in our location, and it's filled with a lot of young people, young adults. And we are still I'm still young adult. I don't know about him, but but it's something that is a hot topic. It's something that everybody wants to know. People want to get married, but then they're like, should I get everything in order? And so this is something that is worth discussing, and it's really important to really find out what is God really saying about this.
What do you think are the common frustrations people face being single in their single season?
Yeah, I think the most common thing is the fact that, nobody wants to be alone, especially when you are getting to that age of, maturity, and you start to realize that you want a companion, and being in a world where, having a boyfriend and girlfriend as early as the age of 9 is encouraged. I know people that, I have young kids. When I say young, very, very young. And I remember one day I went to pick up my children from daycare. At this point, they are like 3 and 4. And this girl, I feel like she's 2. She just came out and she was like, "Are you here to pick up Cam?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, he's my boyfriend." And everybody was just laughing. And I'm thinking, I 2 years old. What do you know about boyfriend? But this is the kind of world that we live in, where it's nothing. People can start dating from elementary school, middle school, talk less of high school. And so when you're in that kind of world where you are now, especially a Christian believer, you kind of feel like left out in a way. So you can be frustrated because you're like, should you have a boyfriend? Should you not have? When you're in that age of maturity where you are thinking about it, it can be frustrating to find yourself in that single state. Yeah.
I think I can understand and relate to what you're saying, because every single day as I work with young people, I begin to find out that the age of this boyfriend thing keeps going down and down. I was talking to, I think, a 12-year-old a couple of days ago, and she was telling me that she was dating someone, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, what does that actually mean? And she actually went and started telling me about how they were hanging out, and I'm like, that sounds a little bit odd to me. I mean, considering the culture that we came from. But do you think there are societal pressures? Because now if you go online, on Instagram or YouTube, people are flaunting to the highest levels the whole marriage process, especially the wedding ceremony. What do you think societal pressures have contributed into singles just not wanting to be single anymore?
Yeah, I mean, are there societal pressure? Absolutely. And even if you're that kind of person that just minding your business, some people, they don't even think about it. For me, I actually remember that when I was in university, everybody just had a boyfriend, had a girlfriend. So it's almost like you are the weird person for not having a boyfriend or girlfriend. So me too, I had a boyfriend, because everybody's having it. It's almost like that nice shiny toy. So there is a lot of pressure, and that's even at college. The pressure is actually even from like middle school. The pressure is high in middle school, because you have a lot of bullying in this age, and so it's kind of like nobody is dating you because you are ugly. Nobody is dating you because something is wrong with you. So in order to prove that nothing is wrong with me, people tend to fall into that pressure. Talk less of when you are now even at, let's say, marriageable age, you mature. And when I say maturity, like maybe 21 or over, it's almost like a natural thing for people to be saying. Even your parents might even start saying that too. So yeah.
I totally agree. Now take me back to, you've been married for a few years now. Like how many years? And then let me know, what was your single season like? How did you prepare mentally, spiritually in that season?
Yeah, actually, I think we'll be coming up to 9 years in October. This is September. So next month, October 10, will be 9 years. So, honestly, 9 years went by so fast. So fast. I feel like once you get married, the clock just like speed up times 5.
I know.
When you are single, you're just like, I can't wait to get married so we can do this and do this and do that. And you get married, it's like, between all the stuff you're dealing with, you don't even have time to do this and that. So it's almost like our priority is always trying to, can we just get 5 minutes to do something,
Right.
So in terms of like, what was my single season like? I always found that I wasn't single long. I wasn't single long. Fortunately for me, I married at 25. I married exactly, we got married in October. I turned 25 in March of that year. But the reason why I said I wasn't single long is because for me, I would say even though I know I gave my life to Christ as a young person, in church, you always kind of like raise your hand, give your life to God, but you really don't know what you're doing. And to be honest with you, I would not really say I was really saved, because when I did enter, because I did things that I should not have. So when I rededicated my life to God, I was 21. And that's when I started to follow God, like follow Christ. Christ was really talking to me. So it wasn't even really anybody that spoke to me. Even at that time, I was not really like going to church like that. I just started hearing the prompting of the Lord telling me, okay, read this part of the Bible, read this part of the Bible. And in fact, it was following a breakup, a boyfriend. So it was following a breakup, and I was devastated, and I started hearing the prompting of the Lord telling me to do this. So it's always funny when you put that together, like, why is Christ talking to you when you committing sin or something like that? And I actually believe that that's the time that Christ calls out for you the most, is when you are in sin, when you are the most vulnerable, because He doesn't desire for anyone to be in sin. And I remember that that's when Christ started, like, talking to me. And at that time, I was so in love with Jesus Christ that I used to wear a shirt that I'm single and not ready to mingle. Because at that point in time, I realized I had like that therapeutic kind of conversation. So back then, the things that young people have now, especially maybe in our church or even everywhere, where the mentors have risen, people are counseling, people are helping people. I really did not have that. I'm the oldest of 6 children. I didn't have anybody mentoring me, anybody talking to me. And I think that's why God really took pity on me and really helped me, because I've been in a lot of abusive, and I've been in a lot of things that have caused me trauma. So I needed to heal. And I actually entered a relationship around that time. I would have messed up the relationship, because there was a lot of trauma there that I needed to be healed. And I think that's why God started calling me, because God knew your husband is a few years from now, you need to get it right. So during my single season, around that time, and I'm going to count my single season when I gave my life to Christ and not the one before. So around that 21, 22, I remember 22 years old was when I went to like a program that was organized by the church. And I was not even thinking about marriage. I was not thinking about anything like that, because now I'm focused on God, and I really was enjoying the relationship I had with God. In fact, because of that, I broke off a relationship that I had. I said, no, God does not desire for us to be in this kind of relationship. And I was able to end that relationship. That was how strongly I felt about it, which was very, very brave of me, because I was so used to just doing what everybody wanted me to do. But I was coming into myself. I was coming into knowing who I am and who God says I really am. And so I was not really thinking about a relationship. But I remember even the church I was going to was just me, the pastor and his wife. That was it. And they had 2 little kids. I even some of my friends would call me and tell me, if you're thinking about getting married in the future, you need to be at a bustling church, a church with young adults just like yourself, because how are you going to find somebody? But I didn't really care about that. And I think that was the difference. I used to actually, because of the things that I've seen as a single person that was not born again, the things that I saw, the advances of men that were married, that would approach me, men that would lie that they're married and really they are married, people. So different things that I saw, I was kind of I was very scared of marriage, because I did not feel like people were faithful. I did not even know if I could be faithful, to be honest with you. To be with one person for the rest of your life, that was something that honestly caused me great anxiety. But like I said, I came from a lot of I've had a lot of trauma. I've had experienced sexual abuse, things that have caused me to not trust men. So that was, for me, that was very, it was normal for me to experience that kind of anxiety, which is why I really was not interested. So when I I remember that first year, a guy approached me, even went to our pastor, like our general pastor, to pursue me in a marriage relationship and courtship. I was just like, that thing was like sitting there for a long time. I was like, you don't even understand how scared I am of marriage. And I remember during that time, I really prayed to God. I said, God, look, I'd rather be single till I'm 40, 50. I don't care than being in a relationship where that I don't have peace, that I don't have peace of mind, that I don't enjoy. I want my relationship to be like heaven and earth. We're not going to get married in heaven. So if I'm going to be here, I want someone that could really lead me, could teach me more of the word of God, because now I feel like a new baby in Christ, even though I knew God, but this is a different relationship. So I wanted someone that was going to contribute to that, not someone that would be like, why are you studying the word of God? Why are you doing this? So I wanted someone that was saved. So that was kind of my mindset. And so I actually had a lot of people. My mom and I always joke around, because sometimes some guys who go to my parents' house like, hey, I want to marry your daughter. I mean, people were coming left and right. And I'm just like, I say I don't want to be in a relationship now. Everybody is coming. But when I was in the world and want to be in a relationship, none of you guys that are good were coming. So, but that time I felt God was really trying to take that time to really prune me. I did miss, not being with somebody. I especially when, as girls, we want to go on vacation. They'll say, let's go on a trip to Jamaica. Let's go here. And I'll just like decline, because I'm like, if you go to the beach, you see two couples frolicking around. I don't want, to now be feeling like I'm missing something. Mm-hmm. So I really felt like it was 3 years of just knowing God. So I think that really helped me to, what I saw in that period was God wanted me to know myself. He wanted to teach me properly the things that I will even experience in marriage. So I'll say my single life was a time of getting to know me, getting to know God, and seeing the things that were also wrong about me, and attempting to start to fix them.
Wow, that is very, very insightful. There are a lot of things you said that if we sit to unpack them line by line, we'll probably not leave here today. But now there's something you said about pursuing a relationship with God. Prior to that 21, were you in church? Like, were you going to church, or you were like focused on God, right? Because we're Deeper Life members, and a lot of us cyclically go to church. And there's a lot of single people who actually go to church, but they're actually not saved. Can you
help me? I truly believe I was not saved.
Can you please speak up to those people who are going to church on a daily basis, but they've actually not sought God for themselves, and they're hoping somehow that they're going to metamorphose into a wonderful and loving relationship?
Yeah. So I think on the outside, if you look at me, number one, I'm as deeper as they come. Mm-hmm. I was born in Deeper Life. I was born on a Sunday at Faith Home Clinic during Pastor Kumi's message. This was when he was the guy that when he was still preaching every Sunday. So if you know, I'm as deeper as they come, and yet I would say that while I was hearing the word, when I was born and bred, it's not because I didn't know God, or I did. Like I said, I raised my hand and gave my life to Christ. There's a difference in doing something because your parents are there, you're doing it, and it's not like I was sinning, like that, but I did not understand God. That was the difference for me. I didn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. I was just, I almost felt like I was kind of just in limbo. I was just there. I would pray. I'm a Christian and all of that stuff. But the difference was I was not being led by the Spirit. I did not have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Christ was not talking to me on a regular basis. I did not even know how to consult with God. I pray, but I believe if things will be answered or not answered, but it was not, I did not walk with God. I think that's the difference. Because when you're walking with God, you get to really, he kind of get to direct you from right from wrong. He leads you in your daily life and what you should be doing, what you are, so I was moving by self-will. Is what I wanted to do. My thoughts, my dreams, my goal. There was no consideration for what does God say about this. So that's why I was saying, and so because of that, I was very gullible. I was easily persuaded. So I was able to do whatever it is my friends were doing that was not saved. I was able to just move with them. I remember, there was a lot of fear about even having boyfriend, from the kind of church that I would come from. In fact, to the point where they even made it like, if you look at a guy like this, you get pregnant. So I was always fearful of that. But I remember when I went to school, university, I had all the other Christians, and they had boyfriends. I'm like, oh, must be okay. So me too. I had boyfriend. So, but that's why I said I never really had a genuine relationship with God to be able to have my own convictions and about things. So because of that, I was able to follow other people's conviction, because I also truly did not know what who I really was, and who God really says that I am.
All right, so rule number one, if you're actually single and seeking marriage, you need to evaluate where's your relationship with God today. Okay, if your relationship is not the one that you're actually intentional about pursuing God and pursuing His purpose, then you're actually going to be dabbling into things that sinners are doing. But you need to be able to come out to that place where you can be safe today, and you don't have to talk to anybody about it. You can decide from today that, okay, today is the day where I begin to pursue a relationship with God. Now, you talked about trauma, because a lot of Christians actually try to do like the people of the world. We're all young, we all grew up, and we know times where peer pressure was a thing for us until we came out of the cliff. Talk to you, walking your way through that trauma, healing through that trauma, because you cannot actually have a good relationship being married when you are kind of baggage, right?
Yeah.
Was it just God you focused on? Did you seek external help and external resources?
Yeah, so like I said, God has been very merciful to me. So back then I didn't even really know trauma. I didn't know I had trauma. So part of why I said that my relationship, even though I gave my life to Christ, so I always felt like I was in limbo. It's also because of the trauma that I had. I didn't know that my trauma was also affecting a lot of things. So when I say trauma, for me, when I remember being around 7, and like someone attempting to rape. Like I took a knife that, hey, you try this, I'm gonna kill you, type of struggle. The guy would have been probably like 16 at that time. So as a child growing up, that was really nothing to me. And then I remember being like 11, 12, and it was like the same thing, like a gang of boys coming, struggling to escape that situation. In fact, I was able to escape because the janitor was in school that day. Well, she ended up of course, reporting to my dad and twisting the whole thing around and saying that I was trying to do stuff with multiple guys, which caused me to be beaten really badly. I probably still have the scars and bruises. I never, when you don't process things, I never processed it because I didn't think it was anything to process. And then my first semester in university, attempted rape, and this time it was successful. So after that, I was 17 years old. So after that happened, I just remember everything just going blank. So up until then, I really did not do anything. But after that, I was just floating through life. If people that knew me when I was young, they always said I was going to be like some kind of I was going to excel, I was so brilliant and blah, blah, blah. But when that happened, I was numb. I think that was the word. I was numb. I didn't even really know what to do. And so when it comes to trauma, and I think that's why, like I said, when I had that breakup or heartbreak, and God started talking to me, God started speaking to me. This is God trying to deliver me. And that's the thing, some traumas you have to be delivered from. And a lot of things, we are Christians here, so I'm going to share. A lot of trauma invites demonic spirits. A lot of traumas invite demonic spirits. Whether it's rape, whether it's molestation, I didn't even share the molestation that happened with a church member, So it was multiple things that had happened to me from the age of 4 up until the age of 17. I think that 17 was like the climax. I failed. I just failed. Everything I did was failure. At that time, I just started saying failure. I was doing pre-med, cancel, couldn't pass biology class, couldn't pass this, couldn't pass anatomy and physiology. I was just failing and failing. I didn't even care that I was failing. So God now started to talk to me at 19, started to show me stuff that I did not know. And honestly, we didn't really, being in America, we didn't really have a bustling young adult ministry where you can even connect with a mentor, like what my husband and I are able to do for people. We didn't have that. And I think that's why God himself had to just do it for me. And that's why I said that God was merciful, because being in mental health, when I look at people that the reason why they are there is because they've been raped, and I'm like, God, look at what you did for me. We see people that even if they're not raped, they just hate men so much that they become lesbians, or people that just developed, psychiatric disorder because of this. And I'm just like, God, you literally did this for me. So it was some things, it was a process. Even now, it's still a process. And I think that's why God was very careful, the kind of person that he was going to let me be with. A lot of men would have been triggering for me. That's just it. A lot of men would have been triggering. But when you know my husband and the way he is so gentle, he's so meek, there's no ego, there's no nothing. So I could not have been with anybody else, because even if you were going to argue with me, it was going to cause problems. I had a lot of pent up anger that I never really dealt with, that God was starting to help me to, like I said, discover myself, who I am, what's going on, what is how this is not your fault, how this is what happened. So it was a lot of process of just that time, like I said, 3 years. It was just 3 years of uncovering who I was. I made mistakes during that time, and God would just pick me back up. So in terms of how I healed, God at that time, in fact, God started leading me to men of God that will, actually, when I say men of God, people that were prophets, that will share things with me about myself. And I'm like, yeah, this is what's going on. That will pray with me. I remember being on a youth prayer line one time, and the brother was like, I need to talk to you after. I need you to pray about this. So God was sending people. It was almost like pastors were my best friends. People used to joke around that I was going to marry a pastor then, and I said, absolutely not. Absolutely, I would not. But God was using people that would come, because we didn't have the media that we do now. The relationship people, the people that will teach you on mental health. We didn't have all of that stuff back in 2011, 2012. It was not like that. But Christ was my mental health, even leading me to deliverance. Deliverance from demonic spirit that had entangled themselves with me, and allowing me to see that, don't you see this pattern? It's almost like a saint, a mark has been put on me, that I'm someone to come and sexually abuse, that I needed to be cleansed from. I needed Christ to wash me, with his blood, and really just deliver me from that. So allowed me to see a lot of things, and I think that's when God started really teaching me about deliverance. Even though then I never thought anything of it, teaching me about deliverance, teaching me about even some things that might even be generational curses, or might even be things that, just a lot of stuff. I don't think we have the time to be able to talk about that right now, but God was very patient with me. He was very merciful. It was all I had. Because it wasn't things that you could not just even open up and talk to friends about. It was just like, you alone, you alone, I don't want to express this. But even in all of that, anybody that knows me, they'll tell you, Abigail is one of the strongest people that I know. I never broke down. When I break down to God, and I still do it. If I need to break down, I go and cry. And the Holy Spirit, comfort, who is a comforter, comforts me, and I keep it moving. That has been my therapy. That has saved me thousands of dollars that I would have had with therapy. So if anybody is going through trauma, thankfully nowadays there is so many resources to help with that, depending on what your trauma is. Everybody's trauma is different. One trauma is not greater than another. I would say definitely it starts with knowing God and really being honest, and really, when the Bible says, cast all your cares upon Jesus, for he cares for you. Sometimes you need to kind of look at your life. Is your life where you want it to be? Have you just been so numb to things? Because sometimes you don't even know that you are experiencing trauma. But when I remember my parents used to be so disappointed, like, this is not what we thought you were someone that just excelled as a child. What happened to you? And I could not even say, this is what has happened to me. So it's good to find somebody that you can talk to, someone that's a Bible believer, someone that you can trust, that you can talk to about what it is that's going on. And allow, even with prayer, even with fasting, some things cannot go except for by prayer and fasting. And mental health counselors, people that are in those fields, but be careful not to be led to the wrong counselors, because I say this, and I remember being in high school, and I was very, very depressed. I was very depressed, and I didn't know what depression really was, but I was extremely depressed. And I remember at 16, I wrote a suicide note. I was depressed and suicidal. I wrote a suicide note because, immigrants, you come to this country, your parents are working all the time, trying to create the best life for you, but you really don't understand. All I knew was I was snatched out of Nigeria, brought here by people that are bullying me in this country, and my parents are not even around. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings. I don't know how to handle it. My world was upside down, and I remember writing a suicide note that I was going to end it. I had the knife, I had the note, everything. And I remember the voice just came like, okay, and then if you kill yourself now, where are you gonna go? And I think that's also the perks of being raised in church, or being raised in the house of God. So things are, even though I felt like I was not really saved, things, obviously I was hearing the word. And that came, and I was like, well, if this world is so bad, let me just deal with it, then me send myself to early hell. And that was what made me stop at that time, and not to do it. But but what I was going to say in terms of like not having the wrong counsel was, I remember going to school, and I think it was obvious. There was one of my teachers that was so wonderful. She was so nice. She's always been nice to me. I think she saw that this girl is not okay. Something is wrong with her. And even when I did not see it, she saw it. And I remember her pulling me aside, and she was like, does your parent beat you? And actually, and a typical African person, like, we get spanked. And she was like, and I was like, oh yeah, when I do something wrong, they do. And she was like, do you want to report it? I don't fault her for this, because what she saw was a depressed teenager, right? But she went to the other extreme in thinking it could have been from physical abuse, and not because maybe of emotional abuse or trauma that I had. Even moving to a different country is trauma that I never dealt with. But she gave me this book, and the book is called Why Am I Blue? So I just thought the book is, blue is like synonymous like being sad. So I thought the book is like, why am I sad? So she said, read it, maybe it will help you. So I got home, and something just always stopped me from reading that book. And I'm so grateful to God that, like I said, when I look back, I'm like, it's like, even in the midst of mess, God has always been orchestrating my life. Because at that time I was very vulnerable. Had I read that book, it might have led me through a trajectory that is completely different than what I am now. Because I remember going to college, and I was packing up things in my room, and I saw that book, and I said, oh, this book that this wonderful teacher gave me, and I was let me even look at this book. Something just said, just read like the beginning, or I think I went to the end, and I saw that, well, if you feel that you are gay, you want to come out, these are the resources. I was like, did she think I was gay?
Like, pass.
Hey. So imagine if I read that book then, I would have thought maybe the reason why I was sad is because I was gay, even though I had no thought of any sexual, nothing. And that would have, and she might have even helped me with that, and that would have probably led me to identify as something. And all Satan really needs for you is to identify, identify as something that I really am not. And I thank God. That's why it's very, very important that while you have this trauma, seeking the right person to help you is really important. I think even starting by praying like God. And sometimes I would just pray and say, God, I need help. Send me somebody to help me. And it might be a friendship that I would just form. and I'll be able to, share, or it might be someone that will just come and just give me a word. Because God does not also always do everything for you. He uses people. And so I'm like, God, how do you want to fix this thing? However way you want to fix it, I need it, and I need it now. And it always comes through. So that's just what I would say in terms of trauma. Pray, ask God to lead you to the right resources. And I know that God will.
Right. So that was a lot. And it's a lot. And I'm happy that we're having this conversation, because a lot of people are actually in that phase and in that funk. Now, you said something about trusting men and wanting to you in the middle of all of this, God was able to navigate you to the place where you're not saying, I don't want to ever talk to a man again. Like you said, if you go to the wrong resources, they'll start telling you to identify as something. How did you walk your way up with God in building trust back for men as you led up into a marriage relationship?
I'll be honest with you, even while I was in courtship, I was still very doubting. So, and I think that is how you know who your husband is really matters. So I would tell you that I went into my relationship very doubtful. Still like, I don't know what you're doing, God. Yes. Like I went into that still not really trusting, because I was still healing. I was still, there are stages that I was going through, but God felt like this was the right time. So part of what happened to me was, maybe if I did not pray such a severe prayer, sometimes I ask people that ask me, can I know your prayer? So maybe if I did not pray such a severe prayer, maybe God might have delayed my husband another 2 years. I don't know. But what happened was, because a guy kept asking me like, hey, I know you're the one, let's do this. And I was like, even though I had peace of mind about the person, but I just feel like, hey, but someone I'm gonna marry, it gotta feel like it has to be something. Like I told my mom, I told my dad, they're like, yeah, we prayed about it. There's peace. I'm like, yeah, there have to be some extra stuff. I was just like, I need more than peace. I need more than peace to enter this relationship. So there was I remember the day, then one of those days, the guy called and was like, come on, I think it's been a year. Like, come on, I need an answer. And I said, God, I'm going to sleep right now. When I wake up, I need to know who my husband is. I don't even think I don't think I've prayed that prayer like that since. I had great faith, and I actually wish I would go back and tap into that faith. I said, God, you're going to show me. And when I wake up, I would know, and I'll give this person an answer, because I'm tired. And I'm telling you, I slept, and I saw the most wonderful thing. Like I found myself in heaven and in front of God, and I was, you cannot be in the presence of God and not praise. That's why if you know God, you have to praise. And I was praising God and just thankful. And God was like, wow, my daughter, the way you're praising me is so good. What do you want? I said, I just get to ask, who is my husband? And it was like, that's all. I said, that's all I need. And I'm thinking in my head, how stupid was I? Of all the things to ask, this was the time to ask, all these other things. But that was what was in my spirit, man, was I needed to know who my husband was going to be. And it was, I'll just look over there. And I looked, and I saw the husband that I'm married to right now in the wrinkled shirt that he used to wear.
Pastor Karunwi will not hear the last of it.
And if you know how back then, he was a PhD student that really did not care much for his appearance. And I'm like, I remembered him because we were in the Atlanta, Macon area, and whenever we come for combined service, I remember one time seeing a bunch of young girls frolicking around a brother, and one of the girls came and meet me and said, oh, do you know who that is? Yeah, he just came. Yeah, he's this is this. I'm like, oh, okay. What concerned me about who he is? And I remember I saw him again, and I'm very observant. I watch people. And I didn't know when I told my sister, I said, that is the kind of guy I want to marry. I was 16 then. That was, and I think when I was now 17, you know, because he kind of mentors, whatever, that's all I know of the guy. So now seeing him in my dreams, I'm like, oh, you sure? Because this guy, I know he was older than me, much older than me. I'm like, this guy is probably married by now. Yeah, God, like, what are you doing? This guy, I'm pretty sure is married. Because he was doing his master's then. I was still in high school. So I'm like, this guy is married. But I woke up from that dream and I was very sure. And at this point in time, remember the way my relationship is with God, I do whatever God says. So it was not a matter of me wanting to be in a relationship, it was a matter of this is what God said. So I was able to actually tell the guy, like, hey, I know who I'm going to marry. But what happened to me was that I all of a sudden, once I told that person finally, well, really did not leave me alone, but at least got his answer. I had an overwhelming love for my husband. I started to like think about him a lot. I was thinking about him a lot, like no, this is not. I was thinking about him, and that kind of prompted me to do what I probably should have done. It was to dig and research. Is this guy married with kids? What is going on? I could have trusted God more than if God, showed that. But like I said, this is me dealing with lack of trust. And it was even seeping into the relationship that I had with Jesus Christ. So even though I had that doubt, I moved on anyway. I actually remember when they called me, that somebody at the church marriage committee called me and said, oh, someone felt that they're being led to you and this and that. Like, okay, I feel like the way they were even talking to me was almost like, they probably don't, because they don't really, I guess they didn't really know, they don't really know me. They were kind of like, well, we probably don't even think, the way it sounded was almost like, I don't think this guy, you even, I don't know, it was just weird. And I just remember telling, the pastor's wife, I was like, if it's that guy, I said, I know for sure who God is, because I didn't know who they said, because like I said, at this point in time, a lot of guys were coming. So I didn't know if it was just another one of those random guys, that did not come and tell me to my face. So I told her, I said, I know who God is leading me to. And she asked, you do? Like, she was kind of shocked. I said, yeah, I know. And I told her that, and she was quiet. I was like, what? And she said, well, we'll let you know if it's the one, he'll call you, whatever. I said, okay. So I was just going through the motion. I think I want to tell you how much the sabotage part of me wanted this to just like to be messed up, to completely just consume. Even when we started courtship, I was like, the moment they said you can call, I said, look, bro, this is everything, just kind of what I just shared with you about my traumatic past. And this is all the stuff that happened to me. This one I've done. This one I've done. This one, that one. It was like, oh my God. Like, I saw it too. I think a part of me wanted to push him away, and I was like, he was like, can you write it down? And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I was already annoyed. So I went and I just wrote an epistle, sent it to him. I'm like, I know for sure. It was the longest day of my life. I was like, I know for sure. After he reads all this, you just kindly go and call the committee.
You just go and run.
I was expecting it. But in the middle of me panic, I was like freaking out. And I was not like, why am I freaking out? Because I actually want this to happen. I'm like, but so if you want it to happen, why are you now doing everything to push him away? But I'm someone that's very, very honest. Anyway, honest to a fault. I needed him to know what he was getting into. You know what you're signing up for. And I remember we did at that time we used Skype. We did a Skype video, and he took a trash can and he took the paper, he printed it out, so he printed everything out, and then he took a lighter and he was burning it. Like, if God forgives you, like, who am I? I was like, oh wow, this is kind of cute.
Right.
I was like, wow. I was very, very shocked, and I think that was like the beginning of, like I said, even while we're going through it, I was doubtful, but getting to know him, I was like, oh wow, and all my anxiety just kind of was going away. I'm like, oh, I know why God wants me to be with you. I see it now. Knowing what I know now about marriage, had I married anybody else in this world, I would have been divorced. It would have, because I'm the kind of person that's very strong. You can't just be bossing me around, telling what to do. That kind of, there was not much humility with me at that time. Honestly, I didn't have much humility. I didn't have much grace, and I did not really have that spirit of compromise that you really need in marriage. And those are the things that I feel like those were the last things on my list for God to fix, was that humility and compromise. So I felt like maybe God might have delayed if I did not rush my answer quickly. But when you have trust issues like that, that's why it's so important to really let God know that, and God already knows. Like, He just needs you to say it. And acknowledge it. And because He knew the perfect person for me, for someone that's easily triggered, that I've been through all this stuff, do I want to put her with someone that's going to trigger her? Like, if we even argue, my husband and I, my husband will just be quiet. And I'm like, in fact, I'm always mad at her. Talk now, God, like, talk. Let's fix this.
Let's argue it out to the end.
Let's talk. But that is not what I need. It's what I think I want, but it's not what I need. And the person that I need that the most is my Creator. And so you gotta talk to your Creator about the issues that you're having with marriage. And it's gonna get down to the bottom of it if you are willing and open and honest to get it resolved.
Wonderful. I mean, I think there's a lot of accountability that you have brought to this discourse that is very, very impressive. A lot of people, because I know now, I mean, you are counseling a lot of young people, and I'm sure you can appreciate the fact that most people, personally, I'm not actively into counseling people. I mean, because of the kind of work I do. But, as my husband is a pastor, your husband is a pastor, I'm sure there's a lot of information that comes to you and to the both of you at the same time. Now, I see a particular pattern, and I see a lot of sisters, especially in church, a lot of people talk about your relationship. They're like, oh, I want a husband like Pastor Karunwi. People talk about my husband. Oh, I want a husband like Pastor Victor. But then I think there is a filter always in the eyes of Christian ladies these days. They want a husband that looks like this person. That person is already made, so to speak. I mean, this is 9 years of you working together and molding and mending. But then because of that, they keep filtering. Like you said, you saw him in his rumple shirt. He is not in that rumple shirt situation. And so I want us to talk about people putting these maid pastors and maid brothers in church. Maid in quotes, not in terms of finance or anything, but maid in terms of the years of building and molding that has gone through. And even for us as sisters, years of building and molding. Most sisters I have noticed are saying, oh, I want my husband to be like this. And so they are looking at the men presenting themselves right now, and they are putting them against pastor, so. And then they're like, no, the Lord has not said that. What do you have to say to that?
They need to go and find their own husbands. That's what I have to say. No, I get it all the time. Like, you are so lucky. You got to be with someone like this, like this. And I'm like, number one, what I would say is looks can be deceiving. Yes. I'm not saying I did not marry a very good person. I'm not saying I did not marry. In fact, I was one of those people too.
Right.
Even there was a period in my marriage, like that first year, the marriage was going so well. I actually talked to God. I said, God, this man could have just married anybody. Why did you put him with someone like me? Like, I said that. I was one of those, I was just like those single people. And you know what? God started showing me everything that was wrong about him. Single people, sisters have to understand that there's nobody that's perfect. And what you are seeing a result of a woman that has worked and labored and worked with her husband. You are seeing a man that has come to his best self because he has peace in his home, because he has a woman that's able to hold him accountable for the things that he might be doing wrong, a woman that's able to love him, allow him to grow and be his best self. You want to come. So that's why when I see people that chase after married men, and it even happens in the church, you want to come and reap where you did not sow, and that thing you are asking curse, you are causing curse for yourself. These men did not just come out like this. It might have looked like that even when they're single. Even to me, when I first married, it looked like that. When God opened my eyes to see, because I was like, this guy is such a person that could be with anybody, because it doesn't give wahala, it doesn't give problem. Why me? Why me? And God started showing me the skills that I had that was to help him. And I realized, oh my gosh, this guy might not even have gone far. If without, maybe, okay, not even go too deep. When I married my husband, I'll just see clothes everywhere, and I'm someone that's very organized. He actually says I'm borderline OCD. And I'm like, you don't really know what OCD means. I'm not OCD, don't I? But I was able to see that this man is not dirty. He's actually a clean guy. He just needs organization. So I started labeling. Underwear goes here, socks goes here, shirt goes here, this goes here, that goes here. Well, what that does is it creeps to other parts of his life too. So those are the little things that a woman does, or the things that you find out in relationship that helps these men be who they are. I'm sure that they will be great men without us, but they are even better men with us. And that's what people are saying. So what I would tell to single people is the fact that get your own diamond in the rough. And I always say one will chase 1,000, two will chase 10,000. With you both being honest and loving each other and being accountable to your own actions, and growing together. Even the aspects of the part of your spouse might not look like is so great. It will be great. It'll be great. It's a partnership, and it doesn't just start in one day. Yeah.
All right, now let's pivot a little bit and talk about the activities you did while you were single. The reason why I personally sometimes I think about this conversation, and I don't really know if I'm one of the perfect fit, is that I had a runaway single time, right? I didn't know where my single season went to be honest. But there are some people who have a significant amount of time where they actually probably went to school, college, everything, got a job, sat down, and actually didn't have to do the rat race. What activities did you engage in, like both spiritual, physical? Talk about the spiritual ones, physical, like social, that maybe helped you succeed, helped you thrive. You talked about going on trips and you not just wanting to go because it was going to present a lot of temptation out there. Can you talk about what things you did and what things, looking back, given our present situation of country and world, looking back, what you think you would do if you had to speak to yourself back then?
Yeah, so because I didn't do everything right, and I did not, and so looking back, there's some things that I actually feel like some regrets that I have in marriage, and we shouldn't live our life with regrets, but I do have some, and those are the things that I know I could have fixed when I was single. So when I was single, one of the things that, because like I said, for me, I was coming from a traumatic past. This was 3 years of God pruning me from my husband. I said, I knew in 2011, God was starting to do work. It was not enough time. So for me, it was a lot of spiritual growth, spiritual maturity, and a lot of self-awareness for me. There was not much trip. I didn't really travel much because I was also in school. So, and by the time I started working, I already knew who the person was going to be. So I was not even going to waste my time much. So for me, it was a lot of spiritual growth. So part of what I asked God was, I want a guy that's this. And God was like, are you this? And I was like, oh, nope, I'm not. So God started taking me to how to not be proud, because I didn't think I was proud, but I guess I was. I have to be humble, I have to be compromising, selfless, loving, the fruit of the spirit. God started teaching me that, another thing was knowing who I was. God, we are all unique in our own ways. It's not like you're going to give up yourself when you're married. No, you're not going to give up yourself. There are qualities that God has given you, but there are also qualities that you have picked up here and there. Some attributes that you have picked up here and there that's also not useful. So God bringing that out, magnifying it and allowing me to start to drop those things. That was the time that was what I really used my single time to heal. That was that was how my single time went. But what I always advise people is, when you are single, you want to be balanced. You want to make sure your spiritual life is good, your social life too. And part of social is, friendships, mentorship. What I did a lot of self-care. So even my husband knows I still do till today. I enjoy playing tennis. I don't do it as much, but I take time for myself. My husband knows I'm like, okay, I need time for myself. He knows what to do. Sometimes when I even come back from work and he knows I'm tired, he would have, I'm aromatherapy, turn the candle, like this candle, turn the candle on, set the mood for me, worship music. Sometimes he will even, it will make my bath water for me. All of those things. Self-care is so important. You have to know how to take care of yourself. You have to know how to decompress from stress. How do you react to stress? Because when you're married and and there's stress, you can't just start blowing up on people, start yelling, and that could cause a lot of issues. So that's why I say self-awareness is really important. How do you react to things? And so I really did a lot of self-care. Also, emotional maturity, emotional growth is so important. I realized that I was not really that emotionally intelligent. In some ways I was, and in some ways I was not. So that was time for me to grow emotionally. When you're married and you start having kids, you desire to do a lot of things for God, but there's just no time. There's just no time to do it. When you're single, go the extra mile for God. I'm telling you, you get it back. And I did. I went full on in the work of God in many ways that I could do it. And God rewarded me. And I think God sees every little thing that you're doing, even when people don't know that you're doing it. So this is time to really go the extra mile for God. Time to explore, travel the world, because like I said, when you enter a relationship, you might think you guys are going to be just setting all over the world, but that time might not really come like that. And that's one of the things that we've not really been able to do, is travel like we wanted to. Sometimes we are ready to travel and it's like, I've just had a baby. I'm in that frame of mind. And like, okay, let's go now. Oh, the baby is just 3 months. We really want to go with it. Because when you are now having children, you have to plan everything. Is this place suitable for children? Is this suitable for this? What do we need to carry? So this time when you are single, you want to kind of get ahead of your system so that you not start feeling like resentful towards your situation and like, oh, that's how I'm stuck at home, with these children. I wish I was here. I wish I was there. So if you do those things now, the places that you want to go. Don't have any excuse. Go travel. It's okay to do solo traveling. I used to, for me, while I might not have traveled outside of the country, I would explore by myself. I would explore, even when I go to a garden, I would just explore myself. I actually enjoy being alone. I enjoy being by myself, exploring, learning. This is the time to do it. Another thing that I'll say is go to school and try to finish school. That is one of the things that I've come to realize that, I had the mindset of, I can always be doing it while I'm married, all of that stuff. It is hard to go to school while you're married. In fact, I have not attempted it yet. So people are able to do it. So that's why I say self-awareness is really important. Are you the kind of person that can juggle multiple things? I realized for me, I can't juggle multiple things. So the things I probably should have done that I kind of delayed, I should have just done it before I married. Learning how to cook, honestly. Skills, there's no skills that, what I say is that having skills will save you a lot of money. And when I even say skills, it's not just cooking. Knowing how to change the light bulbs, knowing how to paint, knowing how to do small things, knowing how to sew, all those little skills, knowing how to put your home together, knowing how to clean. It will just save you on money in your relationship. Would you rather your money going to, there's some things there that you can source out, but it's not, you cannot source everything out. Unless you are making a lot of money, then go on and source it all out. I don't care. But there are some things that, would you rather use your money for time and enjoying your time yourself with your family, or be having to send that money to someone who might be doing things for you that you can learn how to do for yourself? And no matter how much, there was a period that I had people come and clean. I was not even pleased, to be honest with you, because I enjoy cleaning and I like things to be clean. But there are some things that you need to learn how to do, making a home, cleaning, cooking. Look at different skills like that. Research skills that are needful when you're married. See the one that comes natural to you, because most likely you're going to need it especially when you're a mom. Being a mom, you need to know a lot of skills to juggle being a mom, and is very necessary. And this is to just ease your marriage, to ease you when you are married or you start having children. You really need to have those. When you are single time is really time for preparation. It's how you spend your single time is going to reflect on the enjoyment you have in your marriage, the time that you have, the peace that you have, and the lack of stress, that you have. So emotional well-being is mental health. Like I said, I was focused so much on mental, emotional, spiritual, and self. Those are key. Know who you are. Know who you are. It's very, very important. Develop good skills, develop good habits. And those are what I'll say.
Right. So as we begin to wrap up, I just have two more questions, I think. So number one is, you talked about how you explained, you wrote down everything that happened to you prior in your singleness. And a lot of people don't do that. We hear people say that someone hid something, there's a lot of deceit, the person didn't tell me to the fullest extent. How are you able to talk to people who are probably in that place where they're hiding something that maybe their partner will discover down the road? Talking to them about the importance of bringing everything out to the fore and how you were able to overcome that fear.
Yeah, so for me, I already had a fear of marriage to begin with. I don't want to now start enjoying my marriage and then, things stuff happen. Oh, I found this out. Oh, I can't live through, I can't forgive you. I don't want any surprises. That's just me. That's naturally my personality. I tell you everything. So decide what you want to do with it. But I also feel that even though it's natural for me to be that way, everybody needs to be that way. Um, because you don't want to now be in your relationship. I know relationships that have suffered because of this, that has been very hard to I remember there was a someone that told me about this couple. um on the wedding day, if on the wedding day he found out, when everybody came, the groomsmen and the maid of honor, he found out that our ex-boyfriend was like his best friend. He didn't know. And I'm sure she knew, but maybe she thought, it's just nothing. We just dated in the past. This was before my husband. But he cut off the canceled the wedding. So for me, I don't want anything that's going to ruin my future. I've been dreaming of a good future. Nothing is going to ruin it. And you have to just understand that it's better your relationship breaks now than when there are more things on the line, like children, families are now involved, emotions, feelings, time, money, everything is now involved. You will not be able to recover from it. It's hard to recover from a broken. People get divorced and end up in psych hospital. It's hard to recover from a broken marriage, but you can recover from a broken courtship. So if you are fearful that maybe the information that you share is going to cause him to leave, then it's not yours to begin with. Sorry. It's not yours. God don't make no mistake. And God that knew what you had done in your past and forgave you. When God forgives you, He does not even remember what you did literally millisecond before. So if God can do that, who is that person that wants to hold it over your head? The only person you should care about is God. And if truly that is God that's leading you to that person, God will speak to them. God will speak to them, and that person will come around. So don't be afraid that, man, I found a good guy, but I don't know if he can handle what I'm going to tell him. I want you to just have faith. If you believe that this is what God has for you, it's going to work out. And if it does not, God will bring you another person. It's better you break it now than for him to find out later, and vice versa, for her to find out later that you have this issue that you don't even say. And now she now has to start processing this when there's so much on the line. This can cause resentment and can cause lack of trust. That even if you say you forgive each other, that thing will still be there, like in the back of your mind. You will not really be able to truly live as a couple freely. You'll always be watching out for another ball to drop.
Right. I think that's very crucial, being able to appreciate and say. But there are some people, honestly, that maybe, for example, they bring out their past and their life, and then someone breaks the courtship, right? It can cause them more trauma, and they want to be afraid to bring it out again. And maybe they do it 1, 2, 3 times, and those relationships are broken. How do you think someone can navigate that in that situation?
Obviously depends on that thing that's making people run away. For me, I have to be sure. If I was in a situation where I have been sharing things with people that I've been in courtship with, and they keep running away, honestly, for me, I go back to God. Like, is it your will for me to marry? Do you really want me to marry? And if you do, who do you want me to be? Who can handle this? Because it's not God's will for you to be dishonest. Husband and wife, they have to be one. They were naked and they were not ashamed. It means that there's nothing that should be hidden. That's my belief. I know some people, they say my husband does not know everything. Me, my husband must know everything. That's me. I just don't feel like anything should be hidden. And if you're starting to feel that I need to keep this thing from somebody because 3 other guys have run away, I think you really need to go back and pray. I don't think God makes mistakes. I do not believe so. I just shared some things that had happened to me and how my husband, who has never had a girlfriend, never even barely looked at a woman, was able to accept a lot of things, especially for a man that kept himself. You would think most men want a woman that kept themselves. That's it. And he was able to accept a lot of things that I told him. It wasn't because I wasn't fearful. I was fearful, but I was more fearful of him finding out anything in the future that might look like I was being dishonest. I would say go back to God. God does not make any mistakes. If God said this is your husband, with patience, and maybe sometimes bring somebody along. That's why you have pastors and people that, you can tell them that there's something I want to share with this person. Maybe tell them this is what I want to share, and maybe they might have a way. Sometimes when you have an older person be able to help to disseminate that information, it might help even. And when those people see that, the people might respect it from somebody else. So find somebody that you trust, a pastor, someone, a woman leader, someone that you trust. Like, this is something that I want to share with this person, and I don't want to take it the wrong way and run. Sometimes the way information is dispersed matters. And with prayer, they'll take it. Sometimes some information you give it at the wrong time, and it backfires. So with prayer, that person might be able to receive it and really see where you are coming from. Yeah.
All right. One question as we begin to wrap up is, I want you to talk about unrealistic expectations. People setting up unrealistic expectations about who they want. Like, they have this list that is extremely long, that is actually not making sense, bringing up all the nice qualities that they want. And, sometimes we that are married, we can now actually look at the person talking and be like, they play. How do you speak? I mean, I'm sure you talk to people a lot about that. How do you process that conversation with people as they go along?
Most girls want 666, not 6 packs, 6 feet tall, 6 figure income.
Oh, there was a thing. Oh my goodness. It is the number of a man. That's what oh my.
Sometimes they don't come with 6 pack. Sometimes I get the 6 figure. Sometimes they might be 6 feet tall. I think it's okay to have the things that attraction is important. Attraction is important. It's okay to be attracted to a certain type, but you have to leave everything at the door when God says this is the one. So while it is cute and nice and delusional, I would not say delusional. while it is nice to one nice thing, 6 feet over, 6 figures. I had a list, and I thought I was very modest with my list. I was very modest. Man of God, man after your own heart, a man that's humble. If I don't even put any physical trait because I know better. But I put a man that's humble, a man that's vigilant, a man that can teach me the word of God, a man that's faithful, a man that's forgiving, a man that's a good father. I had everything. A man that's, and God was like, okay, are you humble? Are you selfless? Are you faithful? Are you diligent? Are you? And I'm like, sometimes we ask for things that we are not, and you can't get what you are not. So if you want something, you need to be that thing too. And what I will say is, everything that you write, what you think that you need, you'll be surprised. There is one that knows you more. And like I said, if I had married what I thought was perfect for me, I know for sure I will not be where I am. But there's everything that you list, you write it, this is what you think is good for you, but you are human and you take it to God, like, God, this is what I desire. It's good to ask for what you desire, but when the Holy Spirit says, or when God now leads you to someone, and then you're like, it's not making sense because, or it's not, doesn't mean it's not going to make sense because later, it's not tall. That one, it cannot build height later on. God will start letting you appreciate his height. The things that you don't really like, you will realize that these things they don't even matter. They don't matter at all. When you are married and it's not the height that you'll be eating. You can, God forbid, you get into a car crash and the leg broke and now has to be amputated, and now the height is gone. Are you going to stop loving him? A lot of times I always say that the things that you want in a man, try to leave the physical as much as possible, because those things can change. Try to look at the core. Try to look at who the person is. What kind of a person do you really want? And I think God has even laid it out there, the kind of man that we should be looking for. And so, for me, at the top is I need somebody that fears God. Because to deal with me, you need to fear God, so that you don't come and strangle me. That's just my thing. I feel like if a guy hears from God, no matter what happened in our relationship, they will always go to God. And I know God will never lead us astray. God will never lead us wrong. As a woman that fears God, even when my husband does something that is just outright, just bad, and I want to be upset, sometimes God will just go and hug him. Just tell him, sometimes God will tell you to do things that it does not make sense, but because I fear God, I will do it, and it's like instantly everything is like, okay. That's what you should be seeking for in a man. Someone that fears God, not you. Not someone that fears you, someone that fears God. And someone that loves you more than anything. When a man loves you, he can do anything for you. Love God and love you. That is a foundation for everything. A man can be someone that's dirty, lazy, does not have much, cannot do a lot of stuff, but because of the love that they have for you, they will go to the moon and back for you. They will do whatever it takes to make sure that they are pleasing you. And so that's, to me, that's my foundation. I told somebody one time when I saw the way the relationship was, and I said, this man does not love you. This man does not love you. The Bible says, love, when you have love, you are slow to anger. If someone that loves you will not, even when you are mad, they will not talk to you anyhow. They will be careful how they treat you. When you think about even you bought a brand new car that you love so much, you are careful, you quickly wash it, you cover their impurities. Even if you are mad at them, you're always protective of them. Those are the foundation for any single person to always want in a relationship. And when you have that, you grow. The rest, you grow with it. But if you are so dead on looks, and it's not that God will give you, I don't believe God will give you someone that you are not attracted to. I don't believe that at all. God will give you something that you are attracted to. It might not look like, sometimes you think you're attracted to something and it's just lust, infatuation. Sometimes some guy, they might look nice and everything, and then they do something, you're like, and they become so disgusting looking to you. That's when you realize that everything is not about looks. A guy can look so good and they open their mouth and you're just like, what an empty shell, So I remember the kind of guys that I might have dated in the past. My husband is not one of them. My husband is a nerd. He's a bookworm, and I was an athlete. So I love more of the jock, athletic type, My husband is the opposite, but the attraction came. Like, it came. One day I even asked God, like, you sure I'm gonna, the attraction came. God is not going to not let you be attracted to your husband. And I love him for who he is. Even I give him hell about a lot of things. And if you hear this now, you'll start smirking. But I secretly love it. I love that we can be on a date, and looking at the stars, and it turned it into a physics class. I love it, but I will not tell him that I love it. You know, when God gives you someone, it might not be what you initially think you'll be attracted to. So when I saw that I was a bookworm and a nerd, I thought, I won't be able to have fun with this guy. I'm like, God, so now my marriage will be boring. You know how much I like to have fun? I was shocked. We are known as the game couple. We play. I didn't know I could play like that. Like, I didn't know. So you don't know a man truly until you start to live with them and interact with them. But God knew that person. God knew that I would not be bored one day in my life, and that was what I was afraid of, because I thought, it's someone that's a nerd, so serious all the time. Because I saw him serious in church. I didn't know that he's so unserious and always joking around. So don't judge a book by its cover. It's good to have a list, but drop that list the moment God says, this is the person that I have for you, and believe that there is a reason for it.
Wow, I think we have said it all. We will be wrapping this up at this point. I'm going to pray. I would like you to say a word of prayer for listeners. I know a lot of people, be blessed by this, who maybe are confused in the midst. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. If you get some value, give this a like, and we're going to say a word of prayer right now.
Dear Lord, I just want to thank you for even this platform, for how you have orchestrated it, because I know that if people are really truly wanting to know about, their life, their single state, even their marital state, and they listen to this podcast, they'll be able to get something valuable. So thank you for that, for even making that happen. And I just want to pray for the listeners, anyone that will listen to this. And, I'm pretty sure there's someone that really needs to hear this, and they will hear it. And I just want to tell that person that, just listen to God. Just allow God to give you what you deserve and what He desires for you. So for anybody that will listen to this blog, but I just pray that let them be blessed by this. Let them be blessed by this. And even for the host, Lord, that even more and more grace and more wisdom to even be able to bring out topics that will help this generation of God. The goal is for us to always be in your will, to always be aligned with you, with your spirit. At the end of the day, when we are aligned with you, we know that we are in the right place, that we are where we need to be. Lord God, I just pray for as many people that might hear this, Lord God. Remind them, oh God, to continue to always depend on you. And for them to know anyone that might be anxious about marriage, or anxious about the future, or might have had some kind of traumatic past or the other. Lord, I just ask that you heal every broken heart. Lord, I just ask that you alleviate people's anxiety. Lord, I just ask that you truly have to speak to your children one by one, oh God. And I pray that, as they even draw close to you, you draw close to them. And Lord God, Father, start to speak to them about what you even want for their lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Oh, thank you very much. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
And to everyone who has joined us in this episode, I thank you all, and we will have success in 2 parts.
Thank you. Thanks to your husband for releasing you.
Oh yeah, so we're going to thank all our husbands for releasing us to do this wonderful work of the Lord. Thank you to Dr. Karunwi and my husband, who is making sure that this ministry is moving to a permanent site.
Yes.
All right. All right. So I'll see you all in my next video. It's bye for now.